Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the HerStory TV and the HerStory podcast. This is Gertrude Matcha here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Thank you, Gertrude. I love that. And thank you for sharing my little heartwarming dogs. They make me so joyful. My name is Scottlin. I am based in California, in Santa Monica, California, and also Boise, Idaho area. And I am an actress as well as other things. And I am 40-something years old, because I come from an industry that discriminates about age quite often. So I would like to share, about my story. I am so grateful and humbled for you to invite me here and share with your listeners. We have such an opportunity as women to help each other by sharing and opening up. You know, I came from a family that was very perfectionistic, where everything mattered what other people thought. And, in a society where looks and what you own, what you have means so much to people. And even Instagram, and then I'll start my story, but this is part of my story. With Instagram and Facebook and social media, sometimes, we only see those highlights of people's life instead of the real side. So you can get on my website or my Instagram or my Facebook or my Twitter, and I am about joy and positivity, but that's a long journey that I have embraced from coming from a time and space where I didn't have as much joy. And it's been a very bumpy road. It's not like you hit a pinnacle and stay there. Life is up and down. So I was born in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, near Seattle, Washington, and to very loving parents who decided to become very extreme religious practitioners when I was just an infant. And at first, it wasn't such a big difference from everybody else, but it gradually became more and more until they moved us out of the city, way, way out into rural wilderness area. And where I was homeschooled from until the age of 15 and a half, homeschooled and didn't go to school, wasn't allowed to get involved in sports or the community. We had no television. We weren't allowed to listen to any pop radio or read fiction. Every element of our life was very rigorously monitored. And we were taught a very specific religious agenda, not at the fault of my parents, who definitely believed they were doing the right thing, and maybe they were for them. But it was hard for me as a child growing up in that space. It's so not the typical American lifestyle. Or maybe just because I'm blonde or I meet people and I'm bubbly and energetic, and it's like, oh, you must have been a cheerleader in high school. I'm like, no, you have no idea. In high school, I was wearing long skirts, no makeup, no jewelry, and living a very weird and different sort of alternative lifestyle to most people my age at the time. But one of the things that kind of stood out to me in that experience was, and there were good and bad times, and I was very fortunate to have loving parents, but I also developed a very weird sort of myopic, one-sided view of the world. So something that's really interesting about anything that goes to an extreme, including religion, and in a very extreme religious environment, often one of the side effects or one of the pieces of evidence that show you're doing it right, which I was first born type A, high achiever, wanted to do it right, wanted to outdo the adults, is if you follow all the rules, if you do all the things, then you will be a joyful person, because that's what your religion will give you, is a lot of joy. And while it's true that for many people, religion does bring them joy, for others, it's not always a guarantee of being joyful, and which really goes down into the definitions of joy as well. So for many years, I fought depression as a kid, as a teenager, and also a lot of guilt and disappointment in myself, kind of a vicious circle, because I would work hard, follow all the rules, pretend to be joyful sometimes, but in the inside, feeling very isolated, frustrated, lonely. I didn't really have any other adult or very few other adult or children examples or friends in my life. So I felt caged. I felt I was also raised in an environment where I wasn't allowed to really express myself, whether that was joy or anger. It was keep it all down, keep it all kind of in and bland and vanilla, I guess, for lack of a better word. So it was a long journey for me, and climbing out of that space where your mind has been taught from infancy to see the world a very, very specific way. I eventually was able to go to a high school, but it was a very, very tiny religious high school with like 60, 70 students, and eventually on to a religious college where I studied religion as well as history. And slowly, 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 the door began to open crack by crack, a little more every day, every year, into kind of the outside world. And what I found was really shocking, because I also studied history and I became very fascinated with current events, with humanitarian causes, and I started realizing what a different world we all live in. That just following one particular formula, whether that's religious or political or philosophical, is no guarantees for a joyful or a happy life. And that there were people following different formulas that were much happier than I was. So then you're kind of like, okay, so something's a little off here, because I kept all the rules, I did all the things, but I'm not feeling that abundant life, that happiness, that joyfulness that I would really like to feel, that would really make me feel I was a living, breathing part of the planet. I like to think of myself as a global citizen. That's what it says on my Twitter account, where I'm from, global citizen. Um, and it really started opening my eyes to how other people lived. And for me, it was still a bizarre journey. I got married in the southern United States in college, very young. I hadn't even graduated from college yet when I got married, and had a good but challenging marriage that ended very badly. Um, I had a lot of emotional and psychological repair that needed to be done afterwards. And a lot of that was because I was very unprepared for life. I was very naive. And again, walking down the street, look very mainstream American, but what's going on in here and what's going on in here and in my gut, very different. Kind of this feeling of feeling outside, an outsider, which now I know as a professional wellness expert that so many of us have felt like we were an outsider at different times in our life. And as I went through that very, very painful divorce, and started really second guessing a lot of everything I had been taught, I fell into a really deep, deep anxiety and depression, clinical anxiety and depression. I started failing physically and mentally. I was in the hospital for a brief amount of time. And I moved to a different state. I moved back to the West Coast, which was home for me, and where I had, a couple friends and some family. But I didn't want to be too involved in family either. So I started kind of rehabbing and healing, but this depression would just hang on and hang on. It's like, I don't even remember the last time I felt joyful. And one of my friends, dear friend, that I will always be grateful for and praise God in the universe for, said to me when I was in a very dark place and I couldn't get out, because at this point it had been a couple years that I had been in this extraordinarily dark place, second guessing everything, even my will to live at times. Um, she said, I get up off my couch and I find a way to start helping other people. And I had done some humanitarian work in high school and college. So I just got out one day. I said, that's it. I have to turn a corner. if I'm going to go on in this way, I have to get my joy back. I have to have a sense of meaning and purpose and vision again. And actually, for the first time, to be honest, because I was very disillusioned about what my point and purpose was in this world, because it had been so confusing from the beginning as to who or what I was supposed to be, or who or what I was supposed to make happy. And so part of this depression had literally been, who am I and what am I supposed to be doing with my life? So I got online, I started surfing, and one of the first things that I happened across was one of the first opportunities that I worked with was Amnesty International. I got very involved with them for quite a long time, and a lot of other humanitarian endeavors. And as I started hearing stories of individuals from all parts of the world, especially women, which I felt very passionate about, having been a somewhat silenced and repressed woman in the United States, really relating in a strange way to women in other cultures that are suppressed, that aren't allowed to express themselves or their emotions, that don't really get to choose their path, or that are ostracized if they change their belief system. They're ostracized from their family or their community that was their only support system. And I was, with Amnesty International, they do a lot of letter writing and petitions. And so I would start focusing on individual young women or older women in different parts of the world that were being held or imprisoned against their will for just trying to have basic human rights and basic self-expression, or telling the story of others in their country or others in their community and being punished for that. And the more I got involved, guess what? The more I forgot how miserable I was because it wasn't so much that, oh, these people are more miserable than me, because I don't know that. You would just assume they are because of their circumstances, but you just can't be in someone else's mind. And I started realizing, though, that I could make a difference in someone's life, that I could take action that could change and help other people. And then in the people around me, in community services and other things, that I could be a ray of sunshine in their life. Just because you don't feel like you having a joyful, sunny day, and I tell this to my clients all the time, joy is an amazing thing, because even if you don't have it at the moment, you don't feel like you have it, you can still give it. There's kind of a philosophy that says if you don't have it, you can't share it. And I understand where that is coming from philosophically, but I disagree when it comes to joy. Because even if you're having a really terrible day and you decide to make a conscious decision, because this is me, this is Anne, this is how I live now. Instead of becoming completely self-focused, even if it's a terrible day, I am going to choose to bring joy to several other people today. I am going to smile at the lady at the checkout counter at the grocery store. I am going to tell the lady walking her dog how cute her dog is, because I legitimately believe it's such a cute dog. I am going to call someone who I know is sick today and just give them a little encouragement, even if it's only for 2 minutes. But as you start doing these things, as you make this a point of purpose in your life, as I started doing this in little bits like that, and in campaign level efforts, I started finding my own joy just exploding. Because to me, joy is something that's really deep inside you. It's something that's deep in your gut. I believe that joy is a little different from happiness, even though they're related. Happiness is kind of binary. It's about, often in our culture, externals and what you have or what you wear, what you can buy. Either you're happy or you're not. But joy is this intrinsic thing deep inside you that bubbles up through you. And I believe that most human beings were born with this joy. The laughing, joyful baby, before they know that the world can be a difficult place. It's a birthright of every human being. And if you feel like you've lost your joy or it's disappearing, I discovered it was never gone. I had just buried it under so many layers of the onion that it was time to start peeling it back. And the more I peeled it back and started stepping into my own authentic joy for life, then I decided I had to change courses, even in my profession, and bring that to other people as well. Because how could you not? My greatest joy now is bringing joy to others. And it hasn't been an easy ride, and I still get depressed, and I still have challenges. But that's okay, because I'm okay, because I have that joy deep inside, and I'm also bringing it to those around me. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of satisfaction, no matter what.
Wow. What an amazing story. I just absolutely love your energy. I can feel it sitting in my couch right here in Wellington, New Zealand. Absolutely amazing. And you touched on so many things in this story, especially the things that affect women. We go through life, we get married, marriages fail. I can so relate to that story. I ended up collapsing with heart failure in a
Mm,
rice field in Indonesia while on holiday. The emotional impact that affects our bodies, our
mhm.
minds, and our spirits, and how to recover and repair that. So, if I could take you back to that young woman who's going through a divorce, life looks like it's completely collapsed and there's nothing on the other side. And if you could give her 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up till this point, what would you say to her? Imagine that there's somebody right now who's in that position who's needing a ray of hope.
No one can tell you who or what you are. You get to define that yourself. That is your God given gift. No matter what those other people have said, those voices, parents, people, teachers, communities, leaders, anyone who has voiced anything other than support of you and encouraging you to step out and be your own person, they don't get to define you. I didn't know that. I thought they had to define me. You get to define yourself. That's number one. Number two, reach out even when you're feel like hiding from everyone out of shame, embarrassment, depression, anxiety. Reach out and find those, I say, 5 other women in your life that you can have as resource lines, as your helpline. Nurture those relationships even when you're well. This was something a mentor taught me. She's like, Anne, you're going to need those relationships because sometimes even, your husband isn't enough, is that you need women in your life who can help you and support you. So I made sure to invite those women to coffee, even though they were busy or had kids. And they're like, yeah, let's get together. But, they never quite got around to asking me. So I would make a point of asking them and they would say, oh, thank you so much for asking me and staying on me. I really want to do it. And it helps me too. And when I went through my divorce and a complete reinvention of myself and who or what I was, those women were the ones who were there for me, who I trusted and who I was able to hold on to literally for dear life. And the third thing, this sounds absolutely like the hardest thing to do, but learning to forgive yourself and then love yourself. Forgive and love yourself is the best thing you can ever do. Because when things go wrong in life, our first instinct after maybe getting yelling at someone or blaming someone else is to blame ourselves, that we somehow must have been the cause of failure, at least from my mindset, at least the way I was raised. It isn't that way. You get to choose. You get to choose who you are, and you get to live your life to the fullest and really express yourself the way that God and the universe intended for you to do. So love that person. You are, and this helped me this week. I'm going to share this with you. This week, someone shared a poem with me about you are a ray of sunshine in the world. And I had a rough week and had experienced some loss and some other minor depressions. And it helped me remember that I love me because not just because I'm so special, I'm not, but because I'm a ray of sunshine in someone else's world. And I know that's true. I know I can bring joy and love and happiness and encouragement and motivation and inspiration to someone else in my life today. And that alone, if for no other reason, that gives me a reason to put one foot in front of the other. That gives me a reason for living. That gives me a reason to want to wake up in the morning, even when life isn't perfect.
I absolutely love that. One of the things that you said that really touched my heart is focusing on other people when you're not feeling good yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good distraction. It kind of helps you reframe your situation compared to others. And putting a focus on others can be very, very, very healing. So you've been involved in humanitarian work. Tell us a little bit about that. What projects have you been involved in?
Mm-hmm. So yes, so I was involved, as I said, in Amnesty International for a while. I also got involved in. I love travel. I always have since I was first able to travel. So got involved in some traveling trips where I could go and work with the team who was helping build schools, making a difference in the local community, bringing healthcare to the local community. I enjoyed doing that. I became a leader in coordinating some of those projects and programs. And then also just on my local community, reaching out and finding people who need our help and support. There's always someone. And during COVID, on my podcast, I even did a whole episode about even if you're stuck at home because it was COVID, or even if you're stuck at home because of any number of reasons, there's so many things you can do in the world now virtually to help people, to mentor people, to help teach a language, to encourage someone. There's just unlimited. All you have to do is look. But one of the most recent projects I did this year was I was working with some retreats with a gentleman named Will Power Harris. And we were teaching people how to build a humanitarian legacy for themselves. So his legacy was helping other people build a legacy, to build a humanitarian legacy. So we would go to a lovely location for a week and help people unpack their vision and their purpose and what it was that they wanted to do to change the world and make it a better place. And then we would help connect them with others. We would help them come up with a plan. We would help them come up with next steps. There were people who had speaking engagements and appointments scheduled before we even left from the week that were doing everything from working with orphanages in other countries to teaching schools, teaching English as a second language, to working with inner city kids here in the United States and Canada, to dealing with hunger, to dealing with highly neglected communities that are lacking the education and funds to expand their education in the arts. It was incredible how much could be done in so little time.
I absolutely love that. And it is about building a legacy. And it sounds to me that through the work that you're doing now, that's exactly what you're doing. So, the Power of Joy Institute, tell
Yes.
us a bit about that. What does it involve? What are you up to?
Yes. So just last year, after this book came out, The Power of Joy. I'm sorry, The Power of Joy. Live for Joy. The Power of Joy is one of my programs. So, Live for Joy. I realized I was connecting with other people in the emotional wellness industry from around the world who have been working very hard to make a difference, and I realized that a lot of us were working independently, and this is all about supporting each other, right? And collaboration and partnership um, on similar topics to help similar audiences. So I created the Power of Joy Institute, which is a global collaboration of men and women who come together to share their knowledge and talents, to create basically an organization where their gifts can be recognized, that where they can combine efforts, where we can do retreats together, where we can do trainings together, where we can help introduce each other to corporate opportunities. And since it's not just about money, it's about the people all around the world. The goal is, as we grow and develop, because we're just getting started, is having that database of white paper, of articles, of blogs, of videos, of podcasts, so that anyone in the world, they don't have to spend a cent, can come in and learn tools and techniques to live in more, to have better emotional wellness. One of my passion areas is around young college age women in developing countries, especially in India. And this is something I'm just getting started on and exploring. but that live in a very mixed society. And I'm sure Gertrude can agree with and understand and relate to a lot of this. So a lot of these girls now, they're in college and they're becoming engineers because that's what their parents want them to be. They're becoming engineers. They grew up on Instagram, but their parents may still live in a house with a dirt floor, and they are going to have an arranged marriage. So how do you bring emotional wellness to people in this transition period that we live in the 21st century, especially young people, because they're the ones who are going to change our world going forward?
Oh, wow. So we share a similar passion in working with the youth. They are the future. You're right. They are the future generation. So how can people get hold of you? How can people work with you?
Yes, thank you. So you can hop onto my website, which is annescottlin.com. So if you're listening, that's ANNESCOTTLIN, Scottlin, annescottlin.com. You can jump on the website. You can take a look at some of my programs, some of my media, some of my projects. And I also still do individual coaching. I don't even have that on my site anymore because it's more just for in special cases. But if someone really wants to work with me, reach out. My email address is listed on the site, and let me know, how can I support you and your community with joy, whether that's a company, whether that's a church, an organization, whether that's young people, high school, college, or just you and your friends and family. If you want to find ways to bring more joy into your life. And I do joy retreats. Next week, I'm doing a joy retreat in Sarasota, Florida for a week that is just about joy. So check out my website and let me know how I can bring more joy into your life.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming online and gracing us with your presence today. Like I said, your energy is infectious. I could talk to you forever. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in from around the world. The Her Story movement is attracting some phenomenal women, and you are really a beautiful example of what we're looking for. So have a fantastic day, everybody, morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. I'll be back again tomorrow with yet another amazing guest. And Anne, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, Gertrude.
Bye for now, everybody.